Hello and welcome to Photography with Imre, and that is indeed me. And on today's show we are going to be looking at macro photography so that we can get really close to things. Magical things with dragons and other... Oh, I touched the lens. Oops, that's fine. First of all, let's discuss the differences between close-up and macro photography, starting with the latter. Although various definitions of macro photography exist, most commonly it is defined as when the projected size of the subject on the focal plane, that is to say the image that appears on the film or sensor, is the same size as in real life. Another way of saying this is that you have a 1-to-1 ratio or a life-size image. As for where the macro range ends, sources vary a little, but I've seen most say around 10 to 15 times magnification. Beyond this point you enter the micro realm. In order to capture true macro photographs, you generally require an interchangeable lens camera and a lens specifically designated as macro. Close-up photography, on the other hand, is simply getting close to the subject and usually filling the frame with it, but no actual magnification occurs. Therefore, the size of the subject that appears on the film or sensor is smaller than it is in real life. The vast majority of point-and-shoot cameras that claim to do macro photography cannot really do macro. Instead, it's close-up photography that they're capable of. Nonetheless, you're likely to see the macro term used by most manufacturers likely as a selling point. But just to clarify, even if you have a macro-capable lens of producing a 1-to-1 image, it doesn't mean that you can't use it for other purposes, such as to shoot portraits or landscapes. Speaking of lenses, let's examine some of the types available for macro photography and what else can be used to take images that are life-sized or greater. For starters, the most common type of macro lenses are primes, such as the 35 and 50mm, for example. They usually offer excellent image quality and can produce life-size or half-life-size images. All you pretty much do is attach them to your camera and start shooting. Some zoom lenses have macro abilities too. This 70 to 300mm zoom lens can produce a half-life-size or a 1-to-2 ratio image. Because of its longer focal length, the working distance, which is measured from the front of the lens to the subject, is greater than for shorter focal length lenses like the ones I showed a few moments ago. With short focal length lenses, getting nice and close to flowers and rusty nails is fine, as they'll usually stay put, but many insects will take off if disturbed. This longer lens allows me to be about half a meter away, that's about 2 feet, which means an improved chance for catching many bugs in action. There's also an advantage in regard to lighting, but I'll talk more about that in the next episode. Use of extension tubes, bellows, and teleconverters, the latter also referred to as extenders, can also increase the magnification you can get from your lenses. They effectively increase the focal length of the lens. Extension tubes are exactly that. Tubes that move the lens further away from the focal plane. Overall, they're generally affordable, come in different lengths, and increase magnification, especially on lenses with short focal lengths. Keep in mind though, using an extension tube on some lenses will limit their ability to focus in the distance. Bellows are essentially variable length extension tubes, but can really put the lens further away from the sensor or film, thus potentially increasing magnification even more than tubes can. But they're usually more expensive, and their setup and use can be a little trickier. And unlike extension tubes and bellows, teleconverters have several lenses in them that extend the focal length of the lens they're attached to. Common multipliers are 1.4 or 2. So if I have a 300mm lens and I attach my 2x teleconverter, then I now basically have a 600mm lens, and as one would expect, twice the magnification. The nice part about teleconverters is that even though they may not provide a huge amount of magnification, they generally don't inhibit lenses from being able to focus into the distance. I further discuss other pros and cons about these items in my blog, so remember to check out the supplemental post. But we're not done yet. A fairly inexpensive method to get some magnification is to use close-up lenses, more frequently referred to as close-up filters. Keeping things simple, they're basically magnifying lenses that you attach to the front of the lens, like the screw-in types I'm putting on my older Casio camera. Close-up lenses come in various diopters and usually can be combined or stacked. The higher the diopter, the greater the magnification, and in this case, you'll get more magnification if you have a lens with a longer focal length. In my example video here, I've zoomed my Casio as far as it will go, which is 432mm and 35mm film terms, and the result is quite acceptable. Lastly, there are a couple of interesting adapter rings you can get for attaching your lens on the camera or on another lens in reverse. This macro reversing ring allows the filter side of the lens to be attached to the camera, and doing so results in getting increased magnification. This works best with short focal length lenses. But if you really want to get some astonishing results, this filter-to-filter coupler allows you to attach a lens in reverse onto a regularly attached lens. For best results in this case, it's better to have a lens with a short focal length attached in reverse onto a lens with a longer focal length that is attached normally to the camera body. With this 335mm lens, which happens to be in reverse, I can get almost 10 times magnification. Now this is not without its cons, as a sturdy tripod and lots of available light is a must, even to just see the subject through the viewfinder of the camera. But nonetheless, makes for some fairly interesting photos, that's for sure. I am the all-powerful Inukshuk, and I will eat your baby dragon, props. Well, I certainly hope you enjoyed this episode on macro photography, and hey, this is only part 1 of 2. So on next episode, I'll actually be showing you techniques about macro photography, like how you might want to set up your tripod, for example, lighting, which is a huge concern about in macro photography, because especially if you get really close to objects, your lens can actually obscure a lot of that light, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And don't forget to check out my blog, because nonetheless for this episode I will be writing a post that will examine some of the other pros and cons. I didn't touch too much of those in this episode because it would be like a really long episode, so I kept it a little bit short and a little bit concise, but nonetheless do check out the blog. Facebook, Twitter links are on the blog as well. And do subscribe, because then you can keep up with these crazy videos, and they are hopefully very helpful to all of you out there. Remember, you can also suggest topics for future videos. We have a whole bunch of those coming up as well. So I certainly hope to see you next time. As usual, take care. I will be writing a post about all this kind of stuff and what you should learn about the really cool stuff. I gotta redo this.